This information has been brought to light for OVCH on the relationship that exists between Gary Gensler and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Our capital has been accused of engaging in activities related to brokering that are not legal, as well as of misleading individual investors, according to charges that have appeared over the course of the majority of the past several months. The Securities and Exchange Commission has stated that these platforms and cryptocurrency firms are misleading investors, even if the Securities and Exchange Commission has revealed the SEC has been fooling investors for some years. Consequently, attacks on the Bitcoin business have continued to take place as a direct consequence of this happening. The manner in which the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has gone about dealing with cryptocurrencies has also been the topic of a heated discussion inside the House subcommittee. Representatives from both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have been engaged in a conversation on the future of cryptocurrency regulation in the United States. This conversation has been taking place simultaneously. Despite the fact that the Securities and Exchange Commission frequently directs its attention towards the Bitcoin industry, there are a significant number of members of Congress who are not familiar with the operation of the technology. As a result of taking part in discussions with politicians like Brad Sherman, who contend that cryptocurrency corporations generate money out of thin air and that the government of the United States encourages this practice, it becomes clear that this is the case. Brad Sherman is one example of a politician who is involved in such debates. On the other hand, it is of the highest significance to keep in mind that these individuals are lobbying for the banking business and receiving money from large banking firms. This is something that requires careful consideration. The unfavorable feelings that individuals have regarding Bitcoin are unconnected to either the money that they make from banking or the ideas that they have. It is impossible to find any connection between the two. Despite the fact that the Securities and Exchange Commission is responsible for producing crypto asset security, it has been a complete fabrication that none of these crypto assets are securities. This assertion has been made out of thin air. Despite the fact that the SEC developed crypto asset security, this is the case. It is absolutely absurd that there has been almost no clarity or openness on the nature of crypto asset security up until this point in time. This is a situation that just cannot be tolerated. More than 4 years have passed since the attack that was carried out on Ripple and other players in the sector. The attack was carried out on Ripple and other players in the industry. Allegations have been made by legislators that the Securities and Exchange Commission engages in abusive enforcement techniques against companies that deal in cryptocurrencies. As an additional point of interest, the track record of the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) in the cryptocurrency market has been criticized by both the Commissioner of the Exchange Commission and Republican senators. Due to a lack of clarity on the responsibilities of regulatory authorities, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been unsuccessful in a number of significant instances on multiple occasions. It is going to be the responsibility of Congress to provide a solution to the problem of the Commission's inability to take action to register tokens and platforms, as well as to provide clarity regarding the tokens and platforms that do not require registration. It has been determined that the steps taken by the Securities and Exchange Commission have resulted in an increase in the amount of attention and criticism that has been directed at them. This conclusion was reached during the course of the investigation. A number of individuals are of the opinion that the agency has purposefully disregarded a legal jurisdiction that would have enabled it to participate in early rulemaking prior to the involvement of Congress. The agency would have been able to participate in the process of rulemaking if this had been carried out. In the end, it will be up to Congress to repair the failure of the Commission to take action to regulate both tokens and platforms, as well as to offer clarity for those tokens and platforms that do not require registration. And in addition, Congress will be responsible for providing clarity for this matter. Not only has the Securities and Exchange Commission been criticized for its inability to provide long-term regulatory stability for digital assets, but it has also been criticized for its refusal to update its disclosure method for Bitcoin. This is due to the fact that it does not protect investors and does not make it simpler for investors to pool their investment resources. This approach is problematic due to the fact that it does not accomplish either of these two goals about the Securities and Exchange Commission. The fact that they have been expanding these restrictions to new asset classes is absolutely absurd in their reasoning. According to them, there is no assurance of anything, and it is possible that Bitcoin companies and initiatives would follow suit in the future. The current campaign for FTX to receive the green light on September 13th, which was supported by the SEC, which maintains that the rules are easy, makes this evident. The SEC claimed that the rules in question are straightforward. The Securities and Exchange Commission will argue that the laws are straightforward and simple. Despite this, a number of notable companies operating in this sector, like Ripple, have made efforts to establish communication with the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEN) to meet with them. On the other hand, these petitions have been categorically rejected. A number of people have expressed their belief that the Securities and Exchange Commission does not provide clarification on the law. Additionally, it is stated that changes from Form S-1 are not permitted for crypto digital assets, just as it is not permitted for other types of securities products. In contrast to this, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) does allow departures from the standards for all other securities products. As a result of this, the important actors in the sector, such as incumbent banks and politicians who want to depict the industry as a fraud and dominate the region, have now found themselves in a situation of uncertainty and are engaged in a power struggle. This is because of the fact that they wanted to maintain control over the region. As an illustration, FTX has developed into one of the most well-known firms in the sector. By becoming the owner of large sports stadiums, and by arranging for famous people to participate in advertising that were centered on the venues. Because of this, FTX was able to explain its activities by having a major impact on the organization's industry. The Securities and Exchange Commission has been subjected to criticism for its political stance, and cryptocurrency has been used as an example to promote the agency's operations. In order to create control over the market, the Securities and Exchange Commission has addressed any uncertainty that may have been caused by the use of cryptocurrencies as a weapon. This is because the use of cryptocurrencies as a weapon has been a prominent strategy for a long amount of time. In order to manage the market and ensure compliance with legislation within the industry, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been employing cryptocurrencies as a mechanism of regulation. There have been allegations that the Securities and Exchange Commission is to blame for the confusion that exists within the Bitcoin industry. This is due to the fact that the SEC has disputed the existence of clear laws and regulations. Due to the fact that Bitcoin, the businesses that were previously designated as being unsuitable for security measures have been subjected to lawsuits as a consequence of this, and the corporations have declined to comment on any additional information regarding the specifics of these incidents. Every one of the corporations has been brought before the court for legal action. There is a school of thought that asserts the Securities and Exchange Commission is a member of a ruling class that seeks to use power in the appropriate manner in order to impose control over the space and encourage even more wealthy individuals to leave it. It is within the context of the movement that these accusations have been introduced. The Securities and Exchange Commission has been unable to position itself as the major regulatory voice on cryptocurrencies throughout the entire world, which is the reason why they are unable to regulate the field. Due to the fact that this endeavor was unsuccessful, the credibility of the organization has suffered significant damage. The court has criticized the Securities and Exchange Commission for not carrying out its duties in accordance with the law in certain circumstances and for acting in a manner that is both arbitrary and capricious in other instances. The Federal Trade Commission's SEC actions in specific circumstances are the subject of the court's criticisms. They have been punished by the court as a consequence of the fact that they have committed fraud against the court. The court has imposed consequences on them. All of the other countries in the globe are in agreement that having technology, employment, tax income, innovation, and the opportunity to contribute to the economy are all beneficial to the economy. It is generally agreed upon that each of these items contributes to the advancement of the economy. The building of a framework that will allow for the advancement of technology while also protecting customers is something that they are aiming towards. Maintaining the market's integrity and preventing potentially damaging actors from entering the market are two different goals. This is a direct consequence of this one. They have exceeded not just the United States of America, but also the Securities and Exchange Commission in terms of monetary performance. The Securities and Exchange Commission, which is an institution that is responsible for monitoring the financial markets, places a significant amount of emphasis on companies and initiatives that are at the forefront of regulatory transparency requirements. In the event that regulatory clarity does materialize, it is extremely difficult to forecast when it will occur because of the great degree of difficulty involved. Within the context of this process, the firms that are at the forefront include Ripple, which has been striving to collaborate with the government for a considerable amount of time. Despite this, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been conducting secret meetings with these companies and using the information that they provide to their advantage in order to carry out their investigations. With the intention of effectively managing both the markets and the technology, the Securities and Exchange Commission made the decision to permit FTX to operate for such a significant amount of time. In order to portray the industry in such a poor light, this decision is thought to be a deliberate act on their part. Rather than being a problem that falls completely under the purview of the Securities and Exchange Commission, it is a problem that is significantly more severe. This elite regime is working to elevate the Securities and Exchange Commission to a higher position in the government's hierarchy. Confusion has emerged in the cryptocurrency market as a consequence of the steps taken by the SEC, and it is of the highest relevance to find answers